So, once again, welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte.
Later in the show, Edo Mor from the music share program Secret Planet, who are hosting the Almost Spring Weekend Festival at Race Brook Lodge in Sheffield tomorrow and Saturday, will join us.
We'll hear from one of the bands you can see at the festival, too. Orchestra Gold joins us, and we'll hear about how Laura Reed is performing at New City Brewery in East Hampton this weekend and helping the people of Oaxaca at the same time. We'll speak with Oaxacan/Holyoke chef and activist Neftali Duran.
But first, the view from Capitol Hill.
Ready for the State of the Union address tonight?
I'm going to hold my breath. These things go on so long, I'm like, ugh.
It's a good workout. It's like doing squats because you get to sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. Yeah. Time for our weekly chat with U.S. Congressman from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts, Worcester's own Congressman Jim McGovern. It has been a busy week in electoral politics this week. First of all, let's talk about the Supreme Court's decision, a unanimous decision not to remove Trump from the Colorado ballot, setting a precedent for all sorts of other movements across the country that may have attempted to use the 14th Amendment to the Constitution to keep Trump off the ballot. Do you think the Supremes got it correct?
Well, I don't know whether they got it correct or not. I'm kind of disappointed because I am worried about the prospects of another Trump presidency. But look, what this means is that the American people have to defeat him at the ballot box. In many respects, if that can happen, it's cleaner and it will be a clearer message that not only did Trump lose, but people do not want Trumpism. So, I know there's a lot of people who are disappointed, but it was a unanimous decision, and we need to move on, and we need to defeat him at the ballot box.
Well, the ballot box got a good test on Tuesday with Super Tuesday, including Massachusetts voting in the primaries. Joe Biden, of course, ran away with it as the incumbent president of the United States. But there were 9.3% of Massachusetts voters who voted no preference, and that's in response to his response with the war in Gaza. Was that a surprising number to you, and does it bode poorly for the president, even in very blue Massachusetts, that so many people are disappointed with the way he's been handling the situation in Gaza?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think it's something he needs to certainly pay attention to, and I think it's a message that he cannot ignore. And he needs to address the concerns of those who cast a protest vote or who chose to not vote in the primary. I think he needs to send a message to them that he gets it and that he is going to do more to try to end the conflict in Gaza and to get humanitarian aid to people of Gaza right now who are, many of them now are starving to death. So that is important. But I would just say this. We are hearing this administration talk more about ceasefires. The vice president gave a strong statement the other day, and they're talking about humanitarian aid more convincingly, and they have to do more. But contrast that to the other guy who was asked about this and said Netanyahu just needs to finish the job. So there's a difference here, and we can all be disappointed with President Biden's reaction to what is happening in Gaza. I certainly am, and we are continuing to push him for a ceasefire. But the idea that somehow the world will be better off with the other guy is something I'm not, I don't buy.
Do you think there is a change in tone from the White House in response to Gaza with Vice President Harris's speech on the Edmund Pettus Bridge earlier this week? Is the tide turning?
I sense it. The question is, what does that translate into?
Mm-hmm.
They're talking the talk. The question, are they going to walk the walk? At the end of the day, Congress is almost kind of irrelevant in this. The leverage is with the White House. The president has the leverage. I'm not convinced he's using all of his leverage to force Netanyahu to stop the bombing, to agree to a ceasefire, and to open up areas where humanitarian and medical aid and food aid can get to people in Gaza. We have a strong alliance and a strong relationship, and we have invested a great deal in terms of support for Israel. Surely we have to have more leverage to get things on the ground to change. And so I'm hoping maybe tonight he'll talk a little bit more about using America's leverage to get Netanyahu to stop the bombing and to allow food and medicine to get to people in Gaza who are suffering. It is unimaginable how horrible and how terrible things are. Women having C-sections without anesthesia. I mean, seeing pictures of people literally starving to death. I mean, the world can't allow this. That it's not tolerable. It's not acceptable. It has to come to an end.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern. Back to Super Tuesday, were you expecting on the GOP side of things for Nikki Haley to do better, especially in, say, Massachusetts? I know she won in Vermont, but what does this say about the current state of the Republican Party? And did you get any data from your district about, say, how Nikki Haley did versus how Donald Trump did?
I haven't looked at their results that closely, but I mean, I thought overall she would have done a little bit better in Massachusetts. She still made a significant dent into his overall total. I mean, but look, it's an indication that the Republican base, and it really is the base voters who turn out in primaries, mostly, the Republican base is wholly owned by Trump. You know, they drank the Kool-Aid. They're into the cult. I mean, they have bought into his bigotry and his divisiveness, and it really is scary. I mean, in Massachusetts, when you think of the Republican Party, you think of people like Charlie Baker or Mitt Romney or Ed Brooke, and none of those people can have a place in Donald Trump's Republican Party. So, I mean, I think she did okay, but I thought she would have done better in Massachusetts.
It's clear that Trump has a huge cult of personality. It's almost the only thing he has going for him. It's not his elocution or his rapier wit or his wonderful policies. It really is truly a cult of personality, it seems. Is that what America wants? And if so, is Joe Biden enough of a personality to win in November?
Well, I hope it's not what America wants. It certainly would be very disappointing and damaging for our country and for our democracy if America decides to go in the direction of Donald Trump. This is an election like no other in terms of what's at stake. We've never had a presidential candidate who has talked so openly about undoing our democracy and basically undoing the institutions in this country that, quite frankly, make us unique in the eyes of the rest of the world. Look, Biden is not going to be a dynamic personality that is going to wow people with his rhetoric and his humor and look like he's the greatest speechmaker in the world. That's not who he is. And I think the challenge for him is to get people to start looking not just on the show business aspect of this, but on, the policy aspect. We passed this infrastructure bill. I mean, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars are coming to Massachusetts as a result of that legislation. There are initiatives in Western Massachusetts and in Central Massachusetts, all throughout the state, that are going to be funded, and they're going to happen because of that bill. Same with the Inflation Reduction Act. Tonight, I hope he talks about the PACT Act. This was a bill he championed because a lot of veterans who were exposed to burn pits and toxic chemicals were not getting the care and certainly not getting it covered by the VA because they couldn't prove without a doubt that their illness was connected to their service. That passed, and millions and millions of veterans are getting the care that they deserve. My guest tonight at the State of the Union is going to be a veteran, a guy named Ron Roy from Shrewsbury, who's a Vietnam veteran who, because the PACT Act, is getting the health care that he is entitled to and that he deserves. These are big deals. And I think we have to get back down to this is what elections are about. It's not about who can wow the crowd the most. It is about real things. Biden has been perfect, and I have lots of issues with him, including on the issue of Israel and Gaza. But he's going to be the Democratic nominee, and Trump's going to be the Republican nominee, and there's your choice. And I would just say that we don't have the luxury to sit this one out, and we don't have the luxury to say, well, I'll just leave him blank, or, I'll vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. or whatever. All those things have an impact on who wins. And our system is what it is. But, boy, thinking about what this country will be like if Donald Trump prevails, it makes me quite anxious.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, he will be at the State of the Union address tonight, which in some ways is the president's biggest stage. I know it's required by the Constitution that he address Congress, but it becomes now this major media platform where all of the U.S. will get a long glimpse at the president in action. I know, according to the Boston Globe, that Biden and Democratic lawmakers have invited several healthcare providers and women whose lives have been impacted by stricter abortion laws. Republican lawmakers inviting guests who have placed a heavy focus on the nation's broken immigration system. You said you've invited a veteran. Tell us what goes into, as a congressperson, the decision about who you're going to invite to this huge platform, the State of the Union address.
Well, I mean, obviously it matters who's giving the State of the Union address and some of the policies that we anticipate that he will talk about tonight. And he will talk about reproductive rights, and he will talk about the PACT Act. The PACT Act is something that he accomplished, that he was able to get over the finish line. And when we were trying to get it done, Republicans in the Senate were filibustering it, actually filibustering this, trying to derail it. And Jon Stewart, I remember, came to Washington and did a number of rallies outside of the Capitol and shamed some of these Republicans to back off. And they did, and we now have this benefit that is impacting close to 4 million veterans. 4 million veterans are getting the care that they were denied. And so I thought that this was a good thing, and I wanted to invite somebody who we work with, to get the benefits. And so that's why I invited this gentleman from Shrewsbury. He's also he was the father of a Worcester firefighter who sadly perished in a 3-decker fire in Worcester a few years ago. But he's a great man, a great member of the community. And so we talked, amongst the staff about what are the possibilities, and I thought this would be an appropriate person to invite.
We've talked a little bit about what you're hoping the president will address tonight. Do you expect any surprises or anything you hope for that you haven't mentioned so far today that you do hope the president addresses in the State of the Union?
So as one who's been to a gazillion State of the Unions, I would just tell you that I wish there was a rule that you couldn't go more than a half an hour. Because I as I tell my parish priest, if you can't say it in 10 minutes or less, it's probably not worth saying. So the deal is I wish we can consolidate this a little bit more, because it is a long, long, long night. But you were right. I mean, this is an opportunity for the president to lay out what we have accomplished and what we need to do. And I would also say, one thing I hope he does is give the American people kind of a lesson in how Congress works. The bottom line is, we have a government right now that is divided. The majorities in both the House and Senate are really slim. So this idea that it's my way or the highway, it doesn't accomplish anything. And so there is a need to come together and to compromise on some things and get stuff done. The bills that we passed, like we passed a bill to not shut half the government down yesterday, which is a good thing. We brought before the Congress under a suspension of the rules, which means you need a 2/3 majority in order for them to move forward. And so, we were able to get the 2/3 majority. But all these other bills dealing with everything you can think of, the hardline right wing have hijacked them to the point that they can't go anywhere in the Senate. Even the Republicans' bill on immigration that they had, this crazy bill, H.R. 2, Ted Cruz brought it up for a vote in the Senate. I think about 30 senators voted for it. There's not even support amongst all the Republicans in the Senate for this garbage. And so if you want to do things, then you have to understand what the realities we're dealing with are, and then you have to figure out, where the common ground is and pass maybe not everything you want, but some things that help solve problems.
Well, you'll be sitting in the House of Representatives tonight. Maybe you can make a move to sit with the Republicans. Maybe you mix it up a little bit instead of sitting on do you integrate when you sit, or is it all like Democrats sit on one side, Republicans sit on the other side?
Some people mix it up. I have an assigned seat. So
okay.
And that's a good thing, because if you don't have an assigned seat, you have to get there like 3 hours in advance and sit. And
right.
I don't know if I want to sit with Marjorie Taylor Greene for 3 hours. So
Lauren Boebert, though, she's a good one to sit with if you're going to see Beetlejuice, I've heard.
Yeah, well, I think I can. I think I'll pass on that. I will. I will be nice to everybody tonight. I promise you.
Okay, good. I hope for your sake that it's short. I'll do the Red Sox in 2 version of it tomorrow morning. We'll watch it with all the clapping edited out, and it'll be gone like that. But good luck to you tonight. Thanks as always for talking with us every week, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Take it easy.
You can always send your questions for the Congressman to thefab413@nepm.org.
Soon, getting down in the Berkshires with wicked good music, Edo Mor of Secret Planet joins us to talk about the Almost Spring Weekend Festival, along with Orchestra Gold, who not only are playing the festival, but at the Drake tonight, too.
And next, rebuilding equity and climate readiness with a fundraiser at New City Brewery in East Hampton. Chef and activist Neftali Duran shows us how we can help the efforts of Proyecto Rosenda this Sunday.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
So give me no pill. I just need my lover. Keep my scripture filled. I need a remedy.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. This Sunday, March 10th at New City Brewery in East Hampton, Laura Reed and Chef Neftali Duran in concert. Chef Nef, you're not going to be performing music, but your friend Laura Reed will be. You will be preparing food at 4 o'clock with a 5:30 performance at New City by Laura Reed, who was born in South Africa, made her way to Nashville eventually, and has played with everybody who's anybody. But this is a benefit for Proyecto Rosenda, a reforestation and food sovereignty project where you are originally from, Oaxaca, Mexico. Nef now makes his way in Holyoke. We have had a segment in years past that I'm hoping to revive, where Khalees and I go with Nef to the restaurants of Holyoke and prove to the valley that's where the best restaurants are. But tell us about, first of all, your friend Laura, who will be performing with you for this benefit on Sunday.
Yeah, Laura graciously agreed to come and perform. She has a show in Nashville on Wednesday, and then she'll fly up the day after to perform here on Sunday. She's also, a big supporter of food sovereignty, food justice, not only because of personal reasons, but she really believes in the work that we're doing in Oaxaca, which is super important. This Proyecto Rosenda, named after my grandmother, was started in 2020, a winter that I was there and noticed how the water was getting scarce. That is now almost, 3 years in the project. And the water situation is really dire. Not only the water situation, but this month there has been a lot of wildfires, with sadly some people losing their lives fighting the wildfires. Wow. So it's, reforestation, the water situation is really dire. So this is what we're going to focus on in the next few years.
We had you on earlier in the show talking about mezcal and tequila, and you had brought some from Oaxaca, and you're now in the process of making your own. And this part of the food sovereignty and the, I guess, tequila sovereignty is wrapped up in what the work you're doing here with Proyecto Rosenda.
Yeah, mezcal specifically, comes from Oaxaca. There has been what I call New Age colonial rush to make mezcal, which means for any mezcal to be made, you have to plant agave and wait at least 6 years. That's the shortest period of time. And with this rush, with the insatiable appetite for mezcal in the U.S. and in Europe, most people are monocropping agave, meaning planting only agave, cutting down trees, cutting down sides of mountains, and that is also contributing to this water scarcity, and monocropping in general, as we know, is not good.
Is there an issue attached to this with land rights, much like there are here in the United States, where people coming in to make mezcal get land, immediately clear it, and it's hard to get that land back to use it for better purpose?
Yes, I mean, legally, we had the Mexican Revolution that lasted, I believe, 11 years, 1910 to 1921. About 5 million people lost their lives to that revolution, and one of the main tenets was the land goes to whoever works it, and it cannot be sold, especially in indigenous communities. However, what mezcal brands, especially U.S. mezcal brands owned by people in the U.S. do is they contract people to grow the agave. So they're not necessarily buying the land because they cannot in indigenous communities, but they have contracts to buy X amount of tons of agave. And usually how it works is they pay a campesino, they pay a farm family half in advance and then half at the other end. So people see that money and say, okay, I need that money right now. So people do it. I never blame my people for trying to survive, but it's obviously, the greed of capitalism is really working its way in Oaxaca right now.
We're speaking with Chef Neftali Duran, who lives in Holyoke. It's originally from Oaxaca, Mexico, and is hosting a benefit for Proyecto Rosenda, a reforestation and food sovereignty project in his home of Oaxaca. We're not allowed to tell people specifically what to do and what not to do on public radio. But let's just say hypothetically, the idea of rampant capitalism in your tequila and mezcal is something that would be offensive to you. Are there particular names of brands that one might want to look out for, or ones that one might want to look out for to support the indigenous communities that are available here in the 413?
Yeah, I actually just made a post on Instagram a few weeks ago that I can send you. And what I usually recommend to people is if we're going to partake in this industry, first of all, alcohol is not something that we need, right? We need food, we need corn, we need beans. That's what we should be focusing on. But if we're going to partake in this business, we should at least support brands that are owned by Oaxacan families. And I have a list on Instagram that I'll share, that I'll send to you. There's quite a few, and the list is growing. So luckily, some Oaxacan families have the capacity and have been able to own their own brands here and there. That is the issue. In New England, it's hard because I believe there's only like 3 alcohol distributors overall, or not many. It's hard to get a big variety, but there are some brands that are available at the stores.
So we'll try to include that with the podcast if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
The Proyecto Rosenda and the reforestation and the food sovereignty, tell us, what's the long-term goal? Is it like sometimes people do these reforestation projects, they want to plant 1 million trees. Is there a goal of how many more things you need to plant there to get what you feel as a more functioning ecosystem back to Oaxaca?
Yeah, so this is an interesting story. So I started this project with my mom in 2020, and 2021 that was the first year that we planted trees. And I have been in the U.S. since 1997. I came as a undocumented migrant teenager, and I worked for so many years now in the nonprofit industrial complex. And me being here that long changed my mindset in a way that is not very helpful. So in 2021, I set the goal to plant 20,000 trees, and I believe we did around 15,000. But that doesn't mean that it was the right thing to do or how to think about it. I neglected the protocol of going to talk to the elders, going to talk to leaders, going to sit with families, eat some food, have a cafecito, and really be rooted in community. I learned my lesson harshly, and I humbled myself. And 2022, we went and had community meetings. We did a lot less trees, but we worked with a lot more families. And that means the end goal is that the more families that we work with, the more communities we work with, it's not about a number of trees. It's about how much, not only native trees for afforestation, but what else are we planting for them to have access to food. Cactus, nopalitos, apple trees, pear trees, whatever grows in the region, that's the goal. So that everyone has their own food forest, so that in the future, they have access to food, going forward. And that they also hopefully get in the mindset of making sure that they're not buying apples or cactus or whatever they're eating. That's the main goal.
That's actually keys into the question I was going to ask. Does the programs with Proyecto Rosenda encourage planting of just trees, or is this also an initiative to get away from monocultural agriculture?
Yeah, it includes everything. We want to make sure that people are planting corn. Corn, beans, squash, and chilies is the foundation of Oaxacan cuisine. But because of the U.S. system in which the U.S. subsidizes corn as one of the main crops, we get in Mexico, in some regions, we get cheap corn. So in some places, it's easier and cheaper to buy U.S. corn than to grow it. So if we're able to convince people to maintain their seed stock of local native corn, and in addition have fruit trees, cactus, and anything else that we can try, that is the main goal going forward, so that people have access to food. Now, the other thing that we're thinking about, it's early March in New England. It's raining outside when it's supposed to be snowing. I'm preaching to the choir about climate change, but one of the other things that we're trying to figure out is also how to bring to Oaxaca seeds that are climate resistant. In this case, an example that comes to mind is like, can I talk to the Tohono O'odham communities in Arizona and have some of their Tohono O'odham beans, tepary beans, to grow in Oaxaca? Arizona, where they grow these beans, it goes up to like 120 degrees in the summer, and they're able to grow these beans for millennia with very little water. So what can we do to start preparing for the future?
You're building seed banks as part of this?
Yes, slowly. And this year, my goal is to go most of the summer down there, so that I can be present and I can talk to people. And slowly, we're gonna try to build a seed bank.
We're speaking with Holyoke's chef Neftali Duran, who this Sunday, March 10th, will host a benefit for Proyecto Rosenda, a reforestation and food sovereignty project that he started in his hometown of Oaxaca, Mexico. There will be music there by Laura Reed. Food first, though, at 4 p.m., and then the music at 5:30.
Get there early because you want tacos.
Yeah, let's talk about what you're going to be making, because the best tacos that you can get in the 4 counties of Western Mass are when Neff is cooking tacos somewhere.
It kept me alive during the pandemic for so long. There were taco Sundays at Belly of the Beast, RIP, and my household would get them every week. Every week it was tacos and board games. Like, we would put it in our order, we would get our tacos, and then we would just gorge on them and sit there and play whatever Kickstarter mistake had come through the mail that week.
We will have a pozole for people that like soup. We will have a pozole with pork or without pork. We will have pork tacos. And we will also have black bean tostadas or black bean tacos for people that do not eat meat. So it'll be a well-rounded menu, including some sweets from Lucy's Bake Shop.
Oh,
nice.
We just had dinner with Lucy. That's fun. Chef Neff, as I mentioned before, you years ago threw down the gauntlet saying Holyoke had the best restaurants, no need to go north of the tofu curtain. What's the next one that we should endeavor to try when we're going to come to Holyoke and eat with you?
I believe we haven't tried Fame.
I love Fame.
I've been to Fame too, but we haven't all gone together. But yeah.
So we should go together.
We should.
Yes.
That's an
Bolitos.
That's an exciting place, Fame. But this Sunday, make sure to go to New City Brewery in East Hampton. You do have to go north of the tofu curtain for this, but it is a fundraiser, a benefit for Proyecto Rosenda, a reforestation and food sovereignty project founded by Neftali Duran and his mom in honor of his grandmother in Oaxaca, Mexico. It'll be food with Neff, and it'll be great music from Laura Reed, who you're listening to right now. Thank you so much, Neff.
Thank you.
Find more information about the fundraiser for Proyecto Rosenda on New City Brewery's website. The event starts with food at 4 and music begins at 5:30. All going to be awesome.
Music to chase away those pesky winter blues with Edo Mor of Secret Planet and Orchestra Gold coming up next.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, offering solar options, energy security, and solutions for the local community. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Secret Planet is a multi-city, multi-venue music CSA like a farm share program for the ever-expanding ear. The name and concept based on an annual decade-long New York City mini-fest of the same name, and has spent the past year forming regional collaborations between presenter friends across the Northeast to help root artists trade ideas and develop an underground network for taste-based, borderless sounds. In studio with us is the programming force behind Secret Planet, Edo Mor.
Secret Planet is hosting its first festival in its current incarnation this weekend, March 8th and 9th, in which 6 musical acts will perform at Race Brook Lodge in Sheffield, Mass. One of those 6 bands is also with us right now, Orchestra Gold. What started out as a decade-long collaboration between Mariam Diakite? Diakite. I should have asked earlier. I had all of this time.
They've been sound checking in the studio.
I know. I was too distracted by how good they sound.
Yeah, right.
And Eric Huffaker has yielded Something Golden, an African psychedelic rock ensemble based in California with raw hypnotic vocals and groove that simply cooks.
The swinging 6-piece soaks up vast Malian influences from Afro-funk to traditional Bambara ritual song and delivers them with A-grade aplomb and a clear devotion to fuzz, reverb, and musical healing. The brass horn lines and hypnotic guitar riffs trace their sound back to the great African orchestras of the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Orchestra Gold plays the Almost Weekender Festival on Friday, March 8th, but they'll bring their Afro psych sound to the Drake in Amherst tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, even though I don't do my research enough to find out how your name is pronounced.
You did great. Let's hear a song from Orchestra Gold, who are playing at the Drake tonight.
illallah, la ilaha illallah, wala kodedo. Allah la ilaha illallah, Muhammadu Rasulullah, ala kodedo ke. Walai ala kodedo, mam shekijai, ala kodedo. Sebela ala kodedo, bayo asijai, ala kodedo ke. Neba fa ala kodedo, ya kadinjai.
Orchestra Gold is playing at the Drake and Amherst tonight and playing at this festival that we're going to hear about, the Almost Weekender Festival, tomorrow. Edo Mor of Secret Planet. Well, first of all, I want to say 800-639-8850 is the number to call to make a donation. And like a good Ben Clark fruit farmer from Clarkdale Fruit Farm did. Yes, he's now a sustaining member. But, Edo, you bring music like this, and we can put it on the air, and I think that's great. You have kind of the same sort of community-oriented model of bringing music from all over the globe to the 413 through Secret Planet. But I've not heard about Race Brook Lodge in Sheffield. Tell us about where this festival is going to be located.
Yeah, Race Brook is sort of a gem of a place in Sheffield near Great Barrington. It's right at the foot of Mount Race, so it's like right off the Appalachian Trail, and you can get on the trail and even walk part of it while you're there. There's like waterfalls. It's kind of like a rustic resort. You can go take a sauna. They have this like 200-year-old tavern with incredible food. Makes you feel like you're in a different place, a different time. And it's like the perfect place to do something like this, which is it's going to be a very intimate event, just a couple hundred people, lots of dancing, and they have a big old school barn where we're going to do the music.
Is it part of the Dream Away Lodge? Because I thought that...
I compared it to the Dream Away because it has just that, it's the same vibe, you know?
Word.
It's like...
that makes sense.
Yeah. But further out, but it's like a layer cake of magical moments when you're there.
Right.
That's kind of how I think about it.
Apart from this great band, which we're going to hear another song from in a little bit, tell us some of the other acts that will be playing as part of the festival.
Yeah, we're going to have Big Yuki, which is a jazz trio. Not exactly jazz, really. Big Yuki's all over the place. Masayuki Hirano, he's a keyboardist. He's played with Tribe Called Quest, Lauryn Hill. He's playing with Jairus Yokley and Randy Runyon on guitar, who also, they generally are a sideman for like some of the biggest names out there. But when we can get them out of the city to do one of their own sets, it's amazing. Like their music, these are kind of incredible musicians who generally don't have time to do their own thing because they're on deck with heavyweights. But we get to bring them out. Yeah.
I got to see them at the last Barbez. It was crazy.
Yeah, pretty incredible. I've seen them too.
Yeah.
And then you got a couple of DJs, right?
Yeah, we got Nicodemus, famous, like legendary DJ who started turntables on the Hudson in New York City 25 years ago. He's throwing parties, like fusing music from all over the world into 4-on-the-floor bangers for forever. He's like a legend. He's hanging all weekend. And his friend Busquelo is also one of the founders of Turntables on the Hudson, is also spinning. And then we got 413's own DJ Theory, who's just like, will give you like a masterclass experience with Afrobeat, Amapiano, all kinds of Afro house, tropical beats. And we're going to dance until late. It's gonna be nice.
I'm for it.
And we're also going to be dancing to Orchestra Gold. We're going to take a quick little break. We're going to hear a little from them and then hear more music from them coming up in just a little bit.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. We're with Orchestra Gold, who's playing the Drake in Amherst tonight and is going to be playing the Almost Weekender Festival in Sheffield tomorrow. We're with the founders, Mariam Jakite and Eric Huffaker, or Huffaker. Dang it, I was going to write it phonetically during that break. See, that's the problem with public radio. We don't have enough of a break. But see, 800-639-8850 to keep those commercials away, but give us more time to have with the band.
Just have us be human.
Yeah. Tell us about the formation of this band.
That's a good question. Mariam and I actually first met in Mali in like 2006, so it's been almost 20 years ago. And we met because of my djembe teacher. I was living in Bamako at the time for like an internship. And Mariam was a dancer. I knew her first and foremost as a dancer. And then slowly, like, we started working together on music. And one day we were working on music and we were like, hey, why don't we start a band together? And then several years later, we figured out like what that, like the ramifications of that entire thing, like meant actually getting a visa and all that stuff. But she's here now, and she's been in the States since you got here 2017?
2018.
2018.
Yeah, one of the U.S.'s best periods.
In this month.
Yeah.
2018 March.
And you're in California, in the Oakland area? Is that where you guys are mostly based?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we live in Oakland. Yeah.
And it's great that Secret Planet and has this kind of network of tours that you'll be doing on the East Coast while you're here.
Yes, very grateful to Edo and the other good people associated with Secret Planet for bringing us out. Without them, we wouldn't be here.
And they'll be at the Drake in Amherst tonight, and they'll be at the Almost Weekender Festival in Sheffield tomorrow. We're going to run out of time here. I'm going to say 800-639-8850 to make a contribution right now, or NEPM.org .org. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Oscars. We'll go drinking at Juicebox, the new wine restaurant in Shelburne. But let's hear one more from Orchestra Gold.
And then go see them at the Drake tonight. Oh, wait, no calls to action.
Huh? Oh, yeah, right.
Go
you
see them
could
at the
go
Drake.
see them at the Drake tonight if you want to. But do call 800-639-8850.
Yes.
This one, if you put water and if you drink, every day you wanna find money. Somebody wanna. I'm joking. Yeah, this one is from Mali, West Africa. It's good for every woman.